We are here today. Y'all can clap for that. And you just can't ask for a better advocate, for someone to just have your back, someone to undergird your mission. And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for what you've done for us this week. And so I need for you all to stand up on your feet and give it up for none other than Angela Rye.
Good afternoon, everyone. I've been telling Tiffany and Demario all week, I am not the real MVP. Truly, and I would like for a moment, I'm going to introduce you in a moment, but Demario Solomon Simmons and Dr. Tiffany Crutcher, please come stand right here and get your flowers and your applause. These are the MVPs, y'all. They're fighting every single day when people are not paying attention, when they are paying attention, they have to scream, fight, cuss, kick. They are fighting every single day to ensure the survivors, your ancestors, you all get justice. Clap like you mean it. These people are doing the work. They're doing the work. Thank you. I love y'all. I mean that. So speaking of doing the work, you all have been called here today not to celebrate, not to grieve, but to do the work yourselves. I'm so excited about this particular town hall because it invites us in to do something that so many of your ancestors did. I know Tiffany said that it's not a celebration. Oh my goodness, two of my favorites just walked in, y'all. I interrupt this message to tell you that Mother Fletcher and Uncle Red are in the building. Yes. Now those are the real MVPs. Got their jerseys on and everything. Come on. And those will not count as reparations, those are just the J's, okay? Let's be clear. We're not so easily bought, but we'll take a care package. When I watched Uncle Red testify on Capitol Hill the other day, I'm sure many of you all saw it, the reminder he gave us as he stood in the face of people, or sat down in front of people who haven't always been supportive of reparations, not even the idea of an apology. And he reminded them, after being a veteran, that we are all one America. And it's a challenge, it's a promise we haven't fulfilled yet, right? Being one America means you see their humanity, you see their need, their fight for justice, and you acknowledge that. So that will be some of the work of the descendants today, you all today. So as Uncle Red takes his seat, I would like for those of you who are present and you are descendants to stand on your feet. If you're a descendant in the room, if you can stand up, please. If you're a descendant in the room, if you can stand up, please. Yes. Thank you all so much. My next question is, descendants, you might not want to sit down yet. If you're here and you're not a descendant, but you know you carry the spirit of Black Wall Street in your heart, will you stand on your feet? Thank you all. I just have a couple of more formalities. What Tiffany did not say is I'm the former executive director and general counsel for the Congressional Black Caucus. and some of my former bosses and CBC family are here today, and I just want to take a moment to quickly acknowledge them. We have Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence, who's joining us today. And Congresswoman Lawrence represents Michigan, and she will bring opening remarks on behalf of the caucus in just a moment. You have Congressman Hank Johnson from Georgia's 4th District. Congresswoman Barbara Lee from California's 13th District. Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee from Texas's 18th District. We have Congresswoman Lisa Blunt Rochester from Delaware, Ed from Delaware. Did I miss any of my CBC bosses and family? I got everybody, I'm not in trouble. All right, we're good. So again, before we got, we had to acknowledge Mother Fletcher and Uncle Red. We were talking about the importance of the work today. This isn't just a town hall conversation. This is a call to action to ensure that when we all leave the commemorative events this weekend, we understand the fight for justice continues. We understand that there's also work that we have to do, and so we will get to some prompts, but I will get to that in just a little bit. I now have the distinct honor and privilege of introducing to you all, again, it will be both Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence, who is the second vice chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, and Attorney Demario Solomon Simmons. Congresswoman, I know you'll bring remarks on behalf of the caucus. I want to quickly tell you all, Demario has been fighting for reparations since I first met him in law school. We were a part of the National Black Law Students Association at the time on the executive board. Actually, he was on the regional board when you were on the national board. But Demario's title was, guess what, as the boss of the executive board member? I'll tell you, he was the reparations chair. So if you ever questioned his commitment to this cause, I hope that deads that. So Demario, I know that you're following Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence, but I do want to thank you again for your work. He's been talking about this issue since law school. And now it's time for us to help lift up Demario's arms, Tiffany's arms, so many of your arms in this fight. Some others have been fighting this for 100 years. It's time for us to not take the baton, but help them carry that baton so we get a little bit closer to justice. It is past time, y'all. Congresswoman Lawrence, if I can have you now to come bring opening remarks on behalf of the caucus.
Hello, everyone. I want to thank Angela, who is my sister girl. I am just so proud of her. She shows up every time we need her present. And to fly here today from Detroit, Michigan. Now, some of you, I know you got some relatives in Detroit. To come from Detroit, a proud black city, to come to the heart of our black community today, to celebrate, to commemorate, and to empower, and to seek reparations is extremely important, and I'm so proud to be here with you today. I want to take a moment to acknowledge the incredible work that you're doing in Tulsa. I represent Michigan's 14th Congressional District, which includes the city of Detroit. I'm a proud Delta. I saw one of my Delta sisters there. And we are here today as the Black Caucus. You heard our members being acknowledged. And we're here joining you with what we stand on our 50th year in Congress, our power and our message. On behalf of the Congressional Black Caucus, I would like to commemorate you for fighting tirelessly on behalf of the 3 survivors, the descendants of the Tulsa Greenwood race massacre, and the legacy of this incredible community. I also want to recognize the chair of the Black Caucus, who we're standing here strong today. She recently lost her husband, and she's home going through the grieving process. We love her. And she wanted to make sure that we stood up here today and that we were with you. So would you just join me in saying a prayer and giving applause for our chair, Joyce Beatty, representative of Ohio. The Tulsa Greenwood Race Massacre is one of the darkest chapters in American history, yet is largely absent from many of our history books. It's a story that's left untold in many quarters. I want to tell you, as a Detroit girl growing up, it wasn't until I was an adult that I actually understood and was told what happened here in this community. Walking the historic streets and standing here today in this cultural center that serves as a monument to that horrific event, I am reminded of the strength and the resilience of our Black communities, and how despite every challenge and every obstacle, we managed to survive, and in most cases, we thrive. I tell you, growing up in a Black neighborhood, having a community of support, having the legacy of being a Black woman in America, you know what that feels like here. But today, we're going to make the world understand, even though it's 100 years ago, what happened in this community, what happened to my people is unacceptable, and you will remember it, and you will recognize the survivors and those who are the descendants. I want you to know you are the true heirs of an amazing history of the Greenwood District, or the Black Wall Street, which at a time was the wealthiest Black community in America. So think about that. We are struggling now, 100 years later, with the wealth gap, where white people, just because they're born with a certain skin color, are projected and continue to out-earn us economically. But your ancestors found the answer: economic self-determination, self-sufficiency, and Black business ownership. Much can be learned from the example of Greenwood, and I'm here today and proud to say that the Congressional Black Caucus, the largest legislative caucus in the U.S. House of Representatives, 57 members strong, is committed to fighting to make sure that these historic wrongs are corrected, and the story of Tulsa and the Greenwood Race Massacre is never forgotten. And while sadly the congressional district that we're in today does not have a Congressional Black Caucus representative, but I stand here today, our message and our power to let you know that you are now officially represented by the members of the Black Caucus. Part of the resilience and the stories, if you ever look at the history of all of us in the Black Caucus, we went through struggles, and we understand, and we will not leave you alone. And you know, we are family, and we fight every single day, and that's what makes the Black Caucus so strong, because we know when we're in Congress and we're being ignored, or the policies are not one that's including us. I got 57 behind me pushing through, and we will make a difference for Greenwood. 2 weeks ago, members of the Congressional Black Caucus who served on the House Judiciary Committee had a chance to hear from our beloved survivors, Ms. Fletcher and Mr. Hughes Van Ellis, and Ms. Bennington Randall at a hearing, Continuing Injustice, the centennial of the Tulsa Greenwood Race Massacre. Now you think, if the Black Caucus wasn't standing there saying we should have this here, do you think it would have happened? No. So I want you all to understand, when you see Black people showing up in a place you don't normally see, a support them. Because when we're in the room and we get the mic and we get an opportunity to sit at the table that, like Shirley Chisholm told, sometimes we bring in a folding chair, but we're at the darn table. Most recently, my friend and sister girl, April Ryan, produced a segment for the Griot which explored the history of the Tulsa Race Massacre and the continued fight for the justice for the victims of this horrific event and the survivors and all of you, the descendants. The segment was tragically named Genocide in the Heartland. And I want you to hear what I'm getting ready to say. America is loud and strong when criticizing predators of genocide across the globe. We deem them war criminals and we denounce them on an international stage. Yet, our nation's voice have historically and inexcusable been silent in the face of similar actions that occurred right here on our homeland to black people.
That's it. That's it.
Let me be clear, the tragedy that took place here in Greenwood 100 years ago was a genocide.
Yes.
It was an attempt to wipe out an entire community of families, homes, and businesses based on racism and hatred. And that's what genocide is. Our national response must be equal with the act that happened to Greenwood. My CBC colleague, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson-Lee, has introduced a bill, H.R. 40, to create a commission to study reparations. I want you all to know that if you want to fight it, line up with Sheila Jackson-Lee. And she is not going to give up. We could be talking about finding money to plant trees, and she said, but you know, we need to vote on H.R. 40. And everybody's going like, what? She is not going to allow Congress to go to sleep on this. And she's got 57 of us behind her doing the same work. It's an important and necessary step towards serious consideration of reparations, and the Tulsa Greenwood Race Massacre must be a critical part of the discussion. The Congressional Black Caucus, we are 100% supportive of reparations and support and resources for this community. It is a debt that America owes, and we're going to make sure they pay it. The story of Tulsa Greenwood Massacre must be a focal point for our efforts to advance the critical priority of racial justice. You know, this whole country was awakened when George Floyd, we witnessed him dying under the knee, being murdered under the knee of a coward wearing a badge who took the life of a human being. And this shook the country, where that's why we are so woke this moment in the 100th year of what happened here in Greenwood. It's a battle that we at CBC wage every day, and it's a battle we will win. We all know that today is Memorial Day, and communities across this country are rightfully honoring the heroic men and women who made the ultimate sacrifice in the service to our nation and our families. But at the same time, it's also fitting that we also take the time to honor the memories, lift up the legacy of those lost 100 years ago here in Greenwood. In their names, we honor you, their descendants, and commit to supporting you in the fight for justice. I remember when I was elected mayor a long time ago, a reporter walked up to me, he said, so you think you got elected mayor because there's more black people in your city? I said, sir, I got elected because I have earned the respect and honor of the people of this city. I said, but if you want to discuss my skin color, have a talk to God, because he blessed me with this beautiful black skin. He made me equal. I don't sit down under anybody because I have the right to stand up to. My grandmother told me, Brenda, if you work hard, if you go to school, and keep your faith in God. There's no door that you do not deserve to walk through. There's no table that you do not deserve to sit at. And as a black woman in America, as a member of Congress, I want Greenwood to know we are laying our fingerprint on this city, and you have us, we have your back, and I know you have ours. God bless you. Thank you.
This is beautiful. We've worked a long time to get to this point. We got some more work to do. Is that all right? I'm Attorney DeMario Solomon Simmons. Law is my ministry. Justice is my passion. I won't be long, but I got to be strong. Is that all right? I won't be long, but I got to be strong. What I want to do is really talk about the Justice for Greenwood Foundation, what we have set out to do, what we have done, and what we plan to do in the future. And so you can understand, who's fighting for you and what we're all collectively fighting for. Is that all right? All right, so just our mission. At the end of the day, we seek justice and reparations for the survivors and the descendants of those who suffered the massacre. It's real simple. That is our guiding star. We have 4 major points. Number 1, financial compensation for those who suffered the massacre. Number 2, we want accountability, right, Sarah? We want accountability for all those who perpetrated the massacre. We want to make sure we document and publicize the stories and the narratives of descendants all around what we call, and I want you to start saying this word, Greenwood diaspora. Say that.
Greenwood diaspora.
Say it one more time. Greenwood diaspora.
Greenwood diaspora.
Because we were dispersed throughout the world, but we're one. And that's what we want you to understand when you leave here today. We are the Greenwood diaspora. We are Greenwood. And then number 4, we want to make sure we are able to tell the truth about what happened with the massacre. We don't really even understand exactly what happened with everyone in the massacre. We want to tell that truth, and we want to stand with our survivors and our community to make sure that resources continue to flow, start flowing into our community. Is that all right? Let's talk about a few of the things we've accomplished to date, because we've been busy and we've had some great successes. First of all, we filed a historic public nuisance lawsuit that no one saw coming. Go on and give it up for that. I know. No one saw coming. I want you to know we worked on that case for over 18 months in silence. We pulled together a team of lawyers from around this country. You're going to see some of them today. You're going to hear from a few. And we worked on that case, and we worked on that case, and we worked on that case. And we almost filed that case last Juneteenth when Trump was coming down. We said, no, we need to wait. And we finally got that case filed in September, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that case. We worked to get a congressional hearing that Representative Lawrence just talked about just last week, and Representative Sheila Jackson Lee. Well, I want to tell you, when we got to D.C., they tried to make us park a mile away from the Capitol. And Representative Sheila Jackson Lee was on the ground. It was hot. She was on the ground, and she said, no, 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 no. These people are going to come right to the steps of the Capitol, and that's what we did. But we had a hearing. Yes. And more than a hearing, because of my frat brother, Representative Hank Johnson, we have a bill introduced on our behalf for Greenwood. Now, yes, give it up. We have a congressional bill that was introduced last week by Representative Hank Johnson, and many of the CBC members have already signed on. We've created this descendant network that's never been created before. So many, all these descendants in here, most of them we've talked to, we've interviewed, and we actually created a descendant hotline, and I'm going to give you that number here in a second, because again, we are the Greenwood diaspora. We are Greenwood, so we're bringing ourselves together to be a strong block. We were able, a little small, grassroots, North Tulsa organization was able to fundraise enough that we did something that no one had done before. We gave our survivors, each one of our survivors, $100,000. Now, it's not reparations. It's a gift of love. Because at the end of the day, Greenwood was a love story, and I'll tell you more about that later. But we've made sure that we've centered the survivors and descendants. We've made sure that this weekend is not about Disneyland and celebrations. It's about the survivors and reparations. Now, our team, I'm so proud of the team that we've assembled. A diverse team, we're all over the country. Lawyers, activists, academics, just regular folks. Some of these folks, if you're on the Justice for Greenwood team, please stand. Right. Look at them, stand. I'll take more folks. These are the people that's been working on the behalf of Justice for Greenwood. And look at this legal team. And you're going to hear from some of our other lawyers here. We are committed to getting justice for Greenwood because of the tireless efforts of these people you saw on the previous slide and this slide. We have the passion, the compassion, and the resources to fight this fight as long as need be. I hope it's not another 100 years, Michael, but we're going to fight it. Is that all right, Uncle Red? That's right, that's right. So our initiatives moving forward, obviously the historic litigation, but it's not just one case. We have 4 cases going. I'm going to tell you about those. Our descendant outreach, as I told you about, our hotline, you're going to hear more about that. We have a full program for when people call, we can get your information and we can connect you with our group and with our network. We have an oral history project that started. Some of you were interviewed today. If you were interviewed today, raise your hand. Okay, how did that go? Did that go all right? All right. That's just the beginning of our oral history project, where we're going to go across the nation, throughout the Greenwood diaspora, capturing these stories of our families. And we have a wonderful new website that will be launching in the next couple of weeks that will be the #1 resource, all things Greenwood. And we have the developer here who's also a descendant who will talk a little bit about that. Now let's talk about this historic litigation. As you know, we filed the public nuisance case September 1st, 2020. And I want to clear up a few misconceptions about the case. The case is for everyone in Greenwood. It's for the entire North Tulsa community. It's for all those who were impacted by the massacre. Yes, there are certain individuals who are named on the litigation, but when we are successful, it's going to benefit survivors, descendants, and our entire community. It's going to benefit survivors, descendants, and our entire community. We have 2 claims. One is the public nuisance claim, which simply says a nuisance was created in 1921 that has continued and gotten worse each and every year, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. And we want that nuisance to be abated. That's the legal term. And we believe that the law is very clear that we should be able to move forward with our case and be able to prove what it takes to fix or abate the nuisance. That's why we don't have a dollar amount, because we don't know how much it actually costs. We don't know what all it takes to completely abate the nuisance that is here in North Tulsa. The nuisance that we see every day when we see that highway running through our community. The nuisance we see when we see on the south side of the highway, it is a first-rate city, and on the north side of the highway where we live is a third world country. That's the nuisance that we see all the time. Oh, I've just been informed, and I must stop here and recognize former state representative Don Ross. Don Ross, Representative Ross, are you here? Would you please stand and raise your hand? Yes, yes. This is the man, along with Senator Horner, that held the 1997 Tulsa Race Car Commission, who created the report in 2001 that said reparations will do. He's the man that's responsible for this criminal call center. He's the man that knows what he's going to talk about. He's going to talk about reparations. He's going to do the right thing. John Paul still strong. We love you, John Paul. We thank you. We thank you, John Paul. And we miss Senator Maxine Warner, who passed away just a few months ago. Give it up for Senator Maxine Warner. Who sent me an email less than a week before she passed away, just to say, Damari, I want you to know I'm with you. I'm with you. I believe in you, and I am hoping and praying that you never give up the fight. That's the email I will always cherish. We're also asking for unjust enrichment. We are tired of this city and others utilizing our names and our likenesses and your pictures of your relatives for their own benefit. We're tired of that. You have your grandfather, your auntie, your cousin, your father's picture being utilized in movies and books and shows and museums while you get nothing. That's your intellectual property. That's your family heirloom. That's your narrative. That's why we said, you're not going to build this $30 million history center and give our people nothing. You can build it on the backs of our people. In the litigation, we have 7 defendants. Now, please know, we looked at a lot of other defendants. And my good friend, former Carver Middle School in Booker T. Washington, my classmate Stephen Terrell can tell you, we looked at a lot of different defendants. But we settled on 7 defendants. Obviously, first being the city of Tulsa. The second being the Tulsa Regional Chamber of Commerce. The third being TDA, Tulsa Development Authority. The fourth being the Tulsa Metropolitan Planning Commission. The fifth being the Tulsa County. And then we had the Oklahoma Sheriff Department and the Oklahoma Military Department of the National Guard. Yes. I was told today that during a ceremony at Standpipe Hill where those brave black men made their last stand, that the Oklahoma National Guard made an apology that actually stated for the first time in 100 years that we did not do our job, we did not protect the people of Greenwood. That only happened because of what we have done, because of all of you. Real quickly, what we're asking for a lot because we need a lot to abate the nuisance. You probably can't see us pretty small, but I'm gonna tell you first and foremost, we're asking for a victims' compensation fund. We're asking for a victims' compensation fund. For all those who were victimized, not just by the massacre, but the 100 years of continued harm. Absolutely, Representative Lee. We're asking for a scholarship fund for descendants. Specifically for descendants. Not for anybody, but for the descendants. For those descendants who still live in Tulsa, we're asking that your taxes be abated for 100 years. For 100 years, you paid into a city and a county that owes you money, so for 100 years, you shouldn't have to pay anything for that city or that county. We're asking for the establishment of a land trust and give our dang land back. We want our land back. My wife's in here, so I said dang. My mother-in-law's over there too. We want our land back. This, guys and ladies, this is reasonable stuff. You took it, you still have it, give it back. When it comes to black folks, they just lose their mind. Like, what do you mean? Don't we want it back? We want, in fact, this land we're right here in Greenwood Cultural Center, This is actually owned by the city of Tulsa. I'm saying right here, we want this land back. We want this land back. And if you say, well, I can't get the land back, well, give me the fair market value of the land today. How much you think that land with all those buildings they building out on Greenwood is worth today? Don't talk to us about Greenwood Rising when we don't own any of the land. Don't talk to us about Tulsa Prime when we don't own any of the land. Don't talk to us about everything is all good when we don't own any of the land that made Greenwood Greenwood. It was land ownership that made Greenwood. It was freedom by state and wealth comes from land. And we want it back because it's ours, it is ours, it is ours. I said I won't be long.
Be strong with it. All right.
Look, I'm from 36th Street North. I go back to Gibbs, Chamberlain Park, Lincoln Park, Hawthorne Park. All my life, we've never had a hospital in North Tulsa. All my life, we've had to go, people die on their way down with Emerson because there's no hospital in our community. But guess what? Before the massacre, we had a hospital. So we want a hospital. We want the Dr. A.C. Jackson Memorial Hospital built in our community so we can have first-rate health care right in our own community. That's a part of the abatement. So when these people talk about we asking for money, we asking for life. We asking for liberty. We asking for property. And yes, we're asking for money. I'm gonna move on. But I also want to tell you real quickly, it's not just the public nuisance litigation. Because of the legal team, because of the people who are pouring in the resources, we also are filing several open records litigation because as the city was lying to the nation, saying they wanted to be transparent, they wouldn't even give us all the records that they have about the massacre. But we sued them for that. And we also sued Tulsa Development Authority. We also sued Tulsa Metropolitan Planning Area Commission. And guess what? We're going to be suing a few others. We want all the information. Because we're tired of us having to always tell the story. We want to know who actually perpetrated. We want to know the names of some of these people on these pictures with their rifles. We want to know who their grandchildren are, whose uncle was that, whose father was that that's not in power. We want that information. But it didn't just stop there. Because there was a lot of insurance companies that didn't pay. Did they pay our claims? Did they pay us fairly? We have researched because of our diligence. We actually found and reviewed hundreds of claims. We know what was lost. We know where the people lived, and it's granular. And if we have this outside on the counter. Some of you probably have this in your hand. It's so granular. It talks about people losing their encyclopedia sets, their mattresses, their silverware, their clothes, their family heirlooms. And we found through our diligent research, these 13 companies that are still in operation today. We found them. And we've reached out to them. We've sent them letters. And to date, only one company has called us back for a meeting. Is that right, Michael? And that's Chubb Company, and we're going to have a follow-up with Chubb. But these other ones, and I had the great honor on Friday night to pick up our auntie, our collective auntie, Representative Maxine Waters. I had the great honor to pick her up from the airport. And if you didn't know, she's the chairwoman of a thing called the Financial Services Committee. And you know what the Financial Services Committee is over? One of the things that they regulate is insurance companies. And Representative Maxine Waters told me that she's going to have a hearing with these guys to talk about what they're going to do about those claims that they never paid. That's what she told me. in the city and the county. I want to show you just a quick video because it wasn't just the insurance companies that hurt us after the massacre. It was also the banks.
You will see, if you go to Tulsa, you will see a huge marble statue type of tablet that has on it all of the claims that were put in. My father sued for 7 years from 1921 until they were able to get a judge in 1928 to throw the case out of court. Because if the insurance company had paid him, they would have had to pay all the other people who held policies. And it wasn't only the insurance companies, the banks also took advantage of it. If you had lost your bank book in the fire, the bank claimed, as a Muskogee National Bank, claimed they had no records of you. And so nobody could even get their money out of the bank unless somehow their records had survived.
And guess what? We've done the research on those 27 banks that were here in Tulsa at the time, and we found about 17 of those banks are still in operation through Chase Bank and Bank of Oklahoma. And guess what? Who regulates the banks is this woman named Congresswoman Maxine Waters. And she told me that she's going to have a conversation with these banks who kept and stole our money. So I told you I wouldn't be long, but I got to be strong. I wouldn't be long, but I got to be strong. Justice for Greenwood. Justice for Greenwood. Justice for Greenwood.
There was a lawsuit that was filed, I believe, while we were still, it might have been before we got to law school. DeMario's been working on this issue since then. Then it was with Charles Ogletree and Johnny Cochran. Oh, baby lawyer, you said. Oh, yes, it was in 2004, that's true. Okay. Fact checking up here in real time. Okay. Y'all get to see we really are like brother and sister. So next we're going to introduce you all to the Justice for Greenwood Partners, although I feel like I should be saying the doors of the church are now open. Is there one that's standing for justice? But I believe there's a room full. So the introduction of the Greenwood Partners, we have Michael Swain and Sarah Sofinelli, who I had the... Y'all wrote that down wrong on here. I'm so sorry. Michael Schwartz, I'm gonna put some respect on your name. It is right on this sheet.
That's true.
SRZ is one of the most prestigious international law firms in the United States to partner with DeMario and Justice for Greenwood. SRZ is committed to the fight for reparations and has more than 20 attorneys. You saw some of their faces up just moments ago, working on Justice for Greenwood initiatives, providing millions of dollars in attorney hours. They're demonstrating in practice what reparations should look like. So thank y'all. Yes. Jaya Rapp, am I saying that right? Jaya Rapp, who is a descendant and hails from Commerce House, a member of the Commerce House team who has provided countless hours and resources of marketing and branding support for Justice for Greenwood. Jaya, will you stand? And Nicole Austin Hillary, who I remember from the Brennan Center, now with Human Rights Watch, joined at the ground level and has been a partner for over 2 years, working with DeMario and Dr. Tiffany Crutcher. The work began with police reform, which was sparked, of course, by the killing of Terrence Crutcher, who is Dr. Crutcher's twin brother, by Officer Betty Jo Shelby. Human Rights Watch also wrote a damning report on reparations and is responsible for exposing the commission. The commission. More on that later. More on that later. But it turns out their biggest event got canceled, so we won't be seeing them much, but we've heard about them. We'll come see them. Next and finally, not least, last but certainly not least, is Amanda Jackson from Color of Change. I'm sure you all have seen the Color of Change petition for Justice for Greenwood that's been circulating. I learned just the other day that it's been circulating actually since 2019, so she's been in the fight with Justice for Greenwood for quite some time, and Amanda is bad, y'all, and I'm talking Michael Jackson bad. Sister, we thank you so much for all of your hard work and all that you've done to support Justice for Greenwood. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Michael and Sarah for an update, whatever. Okay, and now, after the preacher is finished, the reports will be 5 minutes because we have this great room of workers that we have to get started on building Greenwood 2.0. Isn't that right, y'all? Okay, 5 minutes. I'm gonna cut you off. Oh, he has 1 minute, okay. Oh, can I do one more thing? I'm sorry. Y'all, if you don't know Roland Martin, Roland, can you just wave? Roland is the man that wears many hats. He was interviewing people in the back just a moment ago. Now he's a camera operator. Roland, we thank you for all of the platform you've given this issue. We are so grateful to you. We love you, good brother. Thank you so much.
Hello, I'm Michael Swartz. I'm a partner at Schulte, Roth & Zabel, and I'm chair of our litigation department. And it's an honor of a lifetime to join your community's fight for justice. It's just incredible. If I can back my camera here. So, my firm is a New York-based law firm. We have over 300 lawyers based in New York, Washington, and London. Our team is from New York and Washington. And the way we got involved was DeMario reached out to Brian Stevenson to get help on an intellectual property issue about the misuse of a likeness from the massacre. And so we did a lot of work for Brian's Equal Justice Initiative, and he reached out to the firm, and we said we'd be happy to help on that project, but we said, is there anything else we can do? And DeMario found some things for us to do. You've seen them up there. To give you a sense of what our work has blossomed to, at this point in time, I think we're up to 30 lawyers, 20 business staff. We've donated 2,700 hours of time. And at a New York billing rate, that amounts to over $2.5 million donated. And up here is some of the people you saw. These people are working tirelessly, day and night, in fighting the 7 defendants that you've seen up there. We have weekly calls with DeMario and his team. It's just been an amazing experience. It's an amazing lawsuit. Cannot wait to celebrate victory with you all.
I'm just glad I didn't have to go right after DeMario. So I'm Sarah Stock. Now you may ask, why is a large corporate law firm from New York involved in this case? And not surprising, many of us never heard of the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre until last summer. But we listened, and we learned, and we're still listening, and we're still learning every day. And even though we are not from Greenwood, and we are not descendants of the race massacre, we do believe that it is our collective duty, our moral obligation, our professional obligation as lawyers, as human beings, to use our privilege, our immense privilege, and the resources that we have to help Greenwood access justice through the legal system.
Yes.
And it's a legal system that has failed far too many people for far too long.
Yes.
It's a system that's part of the power structure in this country that has oppressed and silenced the survivors and descendants for 100 years. And not just survivors and descendants of the Tulsa Race Massacre, but Black survivors and descendants of the ongoing state-sanctioned violence and systemic racism in this country. Our systems need to be better. Our legal system has to be better. And the system's not going to get better. It is not going to hold accountable the perpetrators of oppression and violence unless those of us with privilege, with the resources, and with the capability to access that legal system demand it. And that's why Schulte Rockins Abel, it's why our firm has put the full weight of the firm behind this lawsuit. We know, Mr. Ellis and Ms. Fletcher and Ms. Randall, we can't give you back your childhoods, your livelihoods, your homes that were brutally stolen from you. But we do hope that we can play some small part in repairing your community, all of your community, through reparations, through restitution, through respect, and take a step toward eliminating the racial disparities that are pervasive and the persistent inequality of opportunity. And we do think this can happen through the courts. We're going to get there through the courts, but also outside of the courts, and it's why we are so proud. We're proud that we can be in a position to be advocates for you. We are so honored to be co-counsel with Demario and the amazing legal team, who we finally have met in person, LaShandra and Cordell and Eric and Stephen, and there's so many. We're so proud to be part of that legal team. But we're also proud to now represent, also as our client, the Justice for Greenwood Foundation. There's so much to do, and as Michael said, our firm, not just lawyers, but non-lawyers, our entire firm has put our time and energy and our hearts into Justice for Greenwood, from doing estate planning for survivors and descendants, to working very closely with Greta and DJ at Justice for Greenwood on the oral history and descendant outreach project, and just providing general counsel and legal, business, operating, any advice that we can give to Justice for Greenwood Foundation. We are here to give it. So I will say I stand here incredibly humbled and awestruck of the survivors and all of you, the entire community, raising your voices, demanding justice. We are so grateful and honored that you are allowing us to represent you and, as I say, to play some small role, to be just one tool in your toolkit to accomplish that. As Representative Lee said yesterday, while we may be members, thank you for giving us an opportunity to be part of the movement, to be moving. And you have friends we are a large firm in New York. You have friends in New York. We are there for you. We are proud to be part of this. We cannot wait to see victory and justice for Greenwood and for Black communities across the country. You rise, everybody.
Personal privilege. I've seen Sarah at work now, and I want to get her ancestry trace because I think she might be related to John Brown. She's ride or die out here in the street, okay? Having Demario's back, there's been an all-out attack and a character assassination, not just on the survivors, but also of their attorney. You've seen the commission busy at work with all the dirty tricks, and Sarah's been right there, making sure that they get the facts right. $1 million isn't enough for the survivors. A $50 million pledge is not too much. You are right on, brother. They are worthy, and they're not going to demonize them. We didn't tell them to cancel the events. We just told them their priorities weren't straight. And so we'll just move right along. And it turns out you reap what you sow. So when you lie to people and try to get them to come here, they might not show up. Shout out to Stacey Abrams and John Legend. Jaya, who is a descendant, and I'd like for you to come up and give just brief remarks. I think that she is a perfect example of how we're hoping all the descendants will decide to engage in this fight to recreate Greenwood. So thank you for your service.
Hi everybody, I am Jaya Rapp, and I think as Demario or Angela mentioned, I work at Commerce House. So we're based in Dallas. We're a brand, full service branding agency, marketing agency, and this time last year, as our I hate to say it, but mostly white marketing firm looked around to see what was happening in our society and our culture, realized they needed to do some work. And they took time to reflect and think through how might they make an impact. I think for many of you, you've probably been through diversity training, or you've sat in sessions at work with your colleagues and you knew somebody was checking the box. Commerce House, and I think it really says a lot about our owner, Mark Denisek, who's not here with us today, but he is in Dallas, and I'm sure he's watching as this is streaming live. He really wanted us to make an impact. And so over the last year, we've had conversations about what is happening in this country, but more than just talking, we're actually doing. And so when I came to him and said, Mark, I don't know if you know what happened in 1921 in Tulsa, and he said, no, I don't, tell me. He actually listened when I told him about my family, my grandmother who was pregnant, my grandfather who owned a tailor shop and was trying to support his growing family. That shop was burned to the ground, and it was only due to a customer of his that they even made it out alive. They went on to have 6 children in total. I'm here with my half-brother Greg, who is another grandchild of the Neals. I have my cousins with me as well. And, you know, I think we're just so proud to be here today. We grew up knowing what happened in Tulsa, and when we started to realize the world was learning, that was really important for us. But more than just what's happening and learning and educating, how do we compel change, right? How do we make the change happen? Demario is certainly doing so much of that work. At Commerce House, again, as a branding agency, there's a little bit we can do. We can't do any of the litigation work, but we can tell the story. So often, branding is about compelling someone to buy a pair of shoes, to compel them to buy a car, maybe to make a donation. But how do you compel someone to care? How do you compel someone to give their time, their energy, their voice to a cause? And that's what Commerce House is trying to do. So whether it's the website that we're working on, Demario mentioned, it'll be up in a few weeks, and we really want that to be the hub of information about how beautiful and thriving Tulsa was before the massacre. The Greenwood District was beautiful before these images, and these are the images that flood the world right now. So the website will tell the story of what it was like before. It will also tell the raw truth of what happened on that night. And to the 300 plus, and we know it's plus, men and women that lost their lives, and the thousands that lost their property and the futures that they had before them. We will also tell the story on that site of what has happened since, the continuing harm, and how it is not over, but as I think all of you guys have this today, that continuing harm can end with us. And so coming back to the work that Commerce House is doing, it really is about telling that story, compelling people to listen and to act with their voices. And for those of you who want to tell others how they can also participate, it's on the back of this card. It's as easy as signing the petition. It's as easy as donating. It's as easy as being here, joining in the commemoration. For all of the survivors, for the descendants. So I'm glad I didn't have to follow you, but I just want to say that those of us in Dallas, those of us who are part of the diaspora, who maybe aren't here in Tulsa, and we haven't been here for 100 years, but as a part of the diaspora, first we say thank you, but we also want to do our part, and so we're just so happy that everyone is here in this room today, and hopefully will continue to be with us over the next 100 years as well.
Next up is someone who is so powerful, and I had the opportunity to work with her when I was at the CBC. A voting rights champion, really a champion of all things for racial advancement for us and for all marginalized folks. Nicole Austin Hillary is the director of the Human Rights Program at Human Rights Watch. If I can have you come up now, Nicole Austin Hillary.
Y'all know we gotta have a sister girl moment, so just let us have it. Thank you all. I'm so honored and privileged to be here with you. And let me just say this, 'cause my mom, if she were here, would slap me if I didn't. So you know when we're in church, you gotta dress right. But we went to the soil ceremony this morning, my team and I, and then we've been hanging out with our partners, Councilwoman Vanessa Hall Harper and Christy Williams. So we are dressed to do the work. So forgive me for not being in heels and pearls today. But let me get to the substance. Human Rights Watch is here on the ground in Tulsa because the fight for justice is a human rights issue. And for anybody who tells you that it's not, you tell them they're lying. There are some folks who think about human rights as something that happens in other parts of the world. Some folks falsely think, well, human rights issues are things that happen in foreign countries. We don't have those issues in the United States. Like heck, we don't. We are a nation that is built on slavery, on free labor, on degrading, on pillaging, on taking from and not giving voice to the people who have built this nation. And those are human rights issues. And that's why we're here with you all. We started our work here, my colleague, John Raifling, who is out there with us today. John Raifling is our senior researcher for criminal justice. And when Brother Terrence Crutcher lost his life, John came here to Tulsa. And he said, we're going to study this policing issue and we're going to figure out what is going on there. What is wrong that black men like Brother Terrence Crutcher are losing their lives? Something's wrong in Tulsa. And my colleague, Brian Root, who is an economic statistician, magician with numbers, came with John and said, okay, we're going to figure this out and we're going to pull together the data because we need proof. We need evidence, Brother DeMario, Lawyer DeMario. Lawyers need proof to show what is going on and what's wrong. And that's how our work started. And we came here because we wanted to be behind Sister Tiffany. We wanted to be behind the Crutcher family. We wanted to be behind all of the people here in Tulsa who needed to have justice. We wanted to empower them and serve as a voice for them to lift them up. And so that's all we are. We are a tool. And from that work, my colleague Dreesen Heath, who is our racial justice researcher and advocate, who I'm going to let you hear from, said to me, and Dreesen came with me from the Brennan Center when I came to Human Rights Watch, and Dreesen said to me a long time ago, she said, Nicole, we cannot be here doing this work on race and not talking about reparations. You cannot talk about justice. You cannot talk about race without having a real honest discussion and doing something about reparations. And so Dreesen, through her work, is doing that. That report that you talked about, Angela, that's bad, that tells the truth, that's Dreesen's work. So I want you all to hear from Dreesen so you can hear more about that work. And I'm just going to leave you with this. We are going to be here with you in Tulsa. We are going to be your ride or die until we seek reconciliation and justice for you all. And we are working at all levels. We are with you here in Tulsa. We are with our leader, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, pushing for HR 40. Because it has to be from the top to the bottom and everything in between to get the justice that you all deserve and that you all must have. And we are going to be a country that is true to our principles and values on race and on providing equity and justice for everyone. So I want you to hear from Dreesen next.
Thank you, Congresswoman. This podium is still hot from Brother DeMario. It's always a privilege and just honor to be in this space, to walk the streets of Tulsa, to walk the Greenwood District. So many people refer to this space just as Black Wall Street. And there were 40 square blocks of people living their lives, people succeeding, people thriving. Let's not narrow this space to the maximum prosperous space that it was and still is. All of that richness lies within all of you in this room. We may not see it materially yet, but we will soon. But the richness lies in each one of us here, absorbing each other's energy and, continuing this outlasting journey towards justice. Growing up here, so I was born here, did not grow up in Tulsa, but my parents would tell me stories, haunting stories as a child, but they would not explain exactly what happened. They just said some bad thing happened. And my curiosity as a child in the New Haven Public Library just started discovering pictures. Pictures of Black bodies burned, pictures of homes destroyed. And ever since that moment, it was like my discovery of that, and like 7 years old, haunts me to this day. And to be in the presence of Mother Fletcher, Uncle Red, to then testify in Congress alongside you all, to just be in that energy, knowing all that you've been through, knowing the many people that have died waiting for the very thing that you had to go to Washington, D.C. and plead for. It's not right, it's not just that you had to do that. But all these people in this room are committed to fighting on your behalf, to fighting for this community, right? And reparations is not a bad word. Can I get a reparations now? Reparations now! We cannot wait. We can't wait any longer. We've waited too long with this trauma and pain. We cannot wait to recover. And we can't wait for the perpetrators to totally admit. We have to continue to raise hell because our lives have been put on the line for centuries, for generations. And that means the harm is compounded in generations. If we don't get it right in Tulsa, we cannot accomplish reparations at the national level. And I truly mean that. We're talking about one of the grossest human rights violations in this country. And the compounded racist, discriminatory policies thereafter. Okay? It doesn't just matter that, people die, people being killed in the massacre, being shot, being burned, being lynched. That's no different from how people are dying today, right? You don't have to be shot, burned, and lynched to experience Black death in this country at the hands of white supremacy and at the hands of systemic racism. So we need to be committed. Everyone in this room, so many cameras are gonna go off after June 1st. Everybody in this room has to make a commitment to stay. The light cannot go off in Tulsa. Keep the light on. This community has been shining. Keep the light on. So, reparations now.
All right, guys, our survivors are getting a little tired, so they're going to start making their exit. Uncle Red, or would you guys like to say anything?
Test.
President of the United States, I'm pleading for justice and liberation. I have waited for 100 years, and it's my great opportunity to say this. We need this. We earned this. So, I'm waiting. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Mother Fletcher said, my brother spoke for both of us. Thank you, Mother Fletcher. Thank you, Uncle Red. Well, I know somebody else who speaks for them and has been for the last couple of years working diligently with Color of Change on this petition for justice for Greenwood, and that is none other than our good sister, Amanda Jackson, Economic Justice Campaign Chair at Color of Change.
Hey, good people. I just quickly want to highlight a theme, I think, that's important with what we call today as Memorial Day and why we're here. So I'll say Color of Change came into this effort when I started in 2019. I sought to bring attention to the comprehensive nature of all of the Black Wall Streets in this country. There is somewhere nearing a dozen that we've been able to unearth as we talk about Black Wall Street, what Black Wall Street has meant. And then all in all, just the pinnacle point of Black economic success. And so I'll read some of those, but before we get there, I want to talk about today being Memorial Day, and this day being the day that we've come to honor those who serve in the military. But the origins of this day are rooted in Black Charleston, South Carolina. When the Union soldiers who fought to ensure that the freed Blacks would be freed Black people were murdered and just sort of left as they were. It was freed Black people in Charleston, South Carolina that gave them a proper burial and sought to commemorate what they fought for.
Yeah.
And the narrative of what today is in terms of service, how that has been stripped from that community, from those people, from those Black people who wanted to lift up everything that has happened. And that is incredibly synonymous with the way we talk about Tulsa. And how Tulsa, too, has lost, or some of the story, some of the narrative around how we talk about Tulsa has been stripped away. And in our efforts of wanting to control and own who and what we are. And so as we talk about Black Wall Streets, I think it's incredibly important to lift up, this Black Wall Street, the Tulsa Black Wall Street. And as has been named throughout this weekend, Tulsa is America. What happened here in Tulsa happened everywhere. In Durham, North Carolina, the all-Black neighborhood of Haiti, because much of the folks who resided there came from Haiti. In the same way, the first Black insurance company was there. The building is still there, still owned by Black people. In Wilmington, North Carolina, we had an all-Black elected government. Also, all Black banks, Black theaters, Black libraries, in the same way that we know Tulsa also had, also faced the same fate as Tulsa in that a mob and the sanctioned white-led massacre also burned Wilmington in the same fashion that it burned Tulsa. In Columbia, South Carolina, there were Black-owned grocery stores, again, Black-owned libraries, right? Black-owned boutiques, Black-owned shops. In Birmingham and Bowling, not too far from here, in Mount Bayou, the stories go on. And so when I started my third campaign here at Color of Change in 2019 was to lead this effort. And that effort carried us through the spring of last year until we connected with our partners at Human Rights Watch. You've just heard from them, but I want to say their names again. You got Dreesen Heath, Jerry Johnson, Jerry somewhere. Yes, I must lift up our comms expert in the back. Yeah, wait, you know, Jerry. And of course, the Nicole Austin Hillary. And then in our effort in wanting to tell the story of our Black Wall Streets, worked together with Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee on HR 40. And so in this effort, like our partners, we are here simply to tell the story, to push the story forward, and to support what that is for you all. We are equally a tool, and we're here to listen, receive, be a sponge, and then whatever we get, we take, we're gonna wring it out, and we're gonna make sure that what we bring out of that sponge flourishes, nourishes, and revives in the way that only this community sees for it to be. And so my last two bits, as we talk about reparations here at Color of Change, we are a digital organization, the largest online racial justice organization. We always leave with a call to action. So we talked about HR 40 with the Congresswoman. If folks could take out their cell phones, some of you might have already done this, but we're gonna try again. There are two things I'm gonna ask you to text. And I believe the number, yes, here we are. So to 55156, I'm gonna ask you to text the word reparations. And I'm also gonna ask you to text the word Tulsa. Yeah, two separate texts, 55156. And both of those texts will support our mobilization efforts. And in talking about our mobilization efforts, I want to lift up my colleague, our senior campaigner, Falashade Pine, and all the work that she does. Yeah, Falasha is another critical partner here in this effort. But as we again seek to revive the spirit of our Black Wall Streets with this centennial celebration, we, like I said, will only amplify these voices. I personally am so incredibly full. I'm so full from all that I've just been able to allow myself to be steeped in. I'm full from the generosity, the warmth, and of course the spirit of the ancestors who are absolutely here. So thank you, Tulsa. Thank you for offering that, and we are with you. And like we say at Color of Change, until justice is real. Thank you.
Amanda. Okay, now the work begins. It's going to be a brief workshop. Somebody preached. We got us ready, so we know our marching orders in advance. So the small group discussions will be with your tables. You're going to answer where you're from, what brought you here today, your connection to Greenwood, and if you are a descendant, who is your ancestor? So again, for some of us that don't have great memories, write it down. I know I have to. I'm looking at notes right here. Where you're from, what brought you here today, your connection to Greenwood, and if you're a descendant, who is your ancestor? Okay? Now here's the thing I asked Demario if we could do. You guys got to do this quickly. What's your role in rebuilding Greenwood? Right? Again, we have Jaya as a great example, demonstrating whether or not you work in a large place, you have your own place, you want to do something new. What's your role in rebuilding Greenwood? And so you all can break out into these discussions now. Am I doing the conversation with the members up here? So the CBC members who are still with us, I believe it's Congressman Johnson, Congresswoman Jackson Lee, and Congresswoman Barbara Lee will join me up here for a discussion for the folks watching the live stream. It will also be brief, but did we lose Sheila Jackson Lee? Where'd she go? She here? Okay, she's coming back. Okay. Oh, everybody's leaving me. Well, dang. Okay, well, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, you're gonna have to talk to me about the Truth and Reconciliation Commission idea you have and some others. And we can get started. You all ready to break out? Got about 15 minutes. It is 3:43. My math is bad. What time is that? 3:58? All right, 3:58 we'll return.
Hey guys, so we're currently at a town hall where we're going to be seeing some live interviews happen in just a bit with some Congress women and congressmen, Barbara Lee, Hank John, and Shayla Jackson Lee. But this town hall comes at a time that is commemorating the Tulsa Massacre that happened 100 years ago on June 1st, 2021. And there has been like a 15-minute recess But we're in Tulsa, Oklahoma, guys. Just bringing to you coverage of what Tulsa is doing to commemorate and remember the massacre that happened 100 years ago. Folks here are demanding reparations. There's been a lot of discussion about policy and racial equality in the United States.
I love that you referenced.
So let's get back to this event, guys.
Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee was sitting right here. My favorite moment of you introducing this bill was knowing that you were carrying on this legacy from now past Congressman Conyers, who introduced H.R. 40 every Congress since 1989. What led you, Congresswoman, to really keep this fight going and having the faith after all this time that Congress will really consider it, not just hold hearings, but consider it, pass it out, maybe what's giving you the hope that it'll make it past out the floor and maybe to the Senate?
Reparations time is now. And to my dear beloved friend who did carry it, but what most people don't know is that 1988 was when a Republican president signed reparations, the Civil Liberties Act for Japanese Americans. And African Americans were stand-up people. They were right there supporting, right there agreeing. And then this bill was written in 1989. And I do want to thank the Japanese American community. They are front and center with us, as are the rabbinical, the Episcopalians, and just an array of organizations, of course, from Human Rights to Urban League to NAACP. But as he was retiring, I was very honored to be able to be given this honor. And it was, I think, a duty. It was an obligation. It was payback. And so those early years were pretty dark years because for some reason, Americans have a hard time saying that word when it's us. And so we decided to take a different approach as we grew. My sister, our names are similar, and we became in partnership with the idea of truth and reconciliation, with the idea that H.R. 40 moves to create that path. We were in a church yesterday, and the Reverend Dr., I have to call his name, Dr. Faison, said, there is no reconciliation without justice. So H.R. 40 represents that. But in any event, we began to look at human rights. We began to look at being more bold about saying, rather than ask the question that we've always been asked, why, we say, why not? We tried to get over this hump of, I didn't have slaves. I didn't brutalize anyone. I don't have any money to pay. I didn't do anything. And so we began to focus in, Angela, and thank you for your leadership. And you got us where we are today, right in this room. But I begin to say, government-sanctioned action, which is what is here in Tulsa. Government-sanctioned slavery. Government-sanctioned the Black Code. Government-sanctioned Jim Crow. Government-sanctioned the lynching. Government-sanctioned the whole 20th century of segregated America. Government-sanctioned redlining. Government told states, oh, you handled the GI Bill, so when the soldiers came back, if I was in Mississippi, I'm just using an example, or in Texas, I didn't get the GI Bill. Maybe somebody else in another state might have, but I didn't get it because I was black. My grandmother didn't get Social Security because she was a domestic. And they wrote in the bill that domestics were not eligible because that means those employers would have to pay. And so this began to grind, and I said, why are we embarrassed? Why do we have a paper bag over our head? It is just for there to be compensation, but there to be relief. And so we began to coin the phrase, take from the Martin's book and say why we can't wait. Now we've got another phrase saying we've done our part. We paid our taxes, we've died, we've gone to war, and then tragically we become the fodder for the mass incarceration and the fodder for black men on the streets with police misconduct. And so that's where I came to say that this is a moment in history. This year we must pass H.R. 40. Now that is in tandem with justice here in Tulsa. And we just feel that we have been catapulted right into the national fabric to say that there is no moving forward without justice for Tulsa, reparations, and to pass H.R. 40, which is legislation, which is a bill, which is a commission, and we have obviously modified so it is more than what John said, and he welcomes that. It is to develop reparation proposals reported back to the United States Congress to act on. And I know leaders like Angela Rye will not let us sit on a reparations bill that we should be acting on. And we thank you all for that. And we just think that we've just been overwhelmed by the wonderment of where we've been over these last couple of days, that we really do have to act, and act on H.R. 40.
Thank you, Congresswoman Jackson Lee. It has been so encouraging to watch you work around this. I think Ms. Lawrence said it best. We're planting trees, and Congresswoman Jackson Lee is like, reparations though. So thank you for that as well. Congresswoman Blunt Rochester, I want to turn to you because we were just sharing space yesterday, and you said something so profound about feeling the spirit of the ancestors even during the January 6th insurrection. Feeling the spirit of the ancestors in a positive way to let you know that you're resilient and powerful. But there's another kind of thing that's hovering around this reparations discussion, and that is the questioning of our humanity, right? The reason that we're not worthy, Congresswoman Jackson Lee just hinted at that. And I think it's really the reason that people felt like they could go back to Capitol Hill, tear it up, and take their power back. What are some of the things that the Congressional Black Caucus, state and local elected officials here need to be working on to deconstruct that mentality, so when we fully embrace the Black Wall Street mentality, we have the ability to really implement what was destroyed?
Thank you, Angela, so much for that question, and thank you for your leadership. I mean, first of all, I want to acknowledge that this moment is a moment of urgency, and that it is the collective that's going to make the difference. And so what's really pushing this across the country, even being in this room, seeing people from Dallas, Texas, seeing people from all over the diaspora coming together at all ages, from over 100 years old to the young people. A young boy named Preston came to me this morning, and he said, I'm afraid to ask this question, but he said, in my school, I heard they just passed a law that they can't teach us about Tulsa. And so what I committed to that young man was that when we go back, in addition to talking about reparations, we're talking about education. I'm on the Energy and Commerce Committee in Congress. We focus on healthcare, we focus on commerce and trade. It's gotta be all hands on deck. Every single person can play their part, and that's all we're called to do. And so being here for me, having been up in that gallery during the insurrection, I could feel the spirit of our ancestors. I could feel all of them, from Jim Crow to slavery to Tulsa, saying for us to do our part right now. So if you're a legislator, legislate, appropriate, get the monies directed. If you've never run for office, I never ran for anything in my life until I ran for Congress.
Yeah.
Never ran for anything. We gotta stand up for ourselves. We gotta run for office. We gotta help and support each other, and we gotta support our legal teams as well. So I'm just glad to be a part of Tulsa. The one line that came out, keep the light on.
Yeah.
Keep the light on. We cannot let this day go by. And we've committed that we're gonna pass H.R. 40.
Yeah.
We're gonna pass H.R. 40 this year. This year. This year.
Thank you so much to Congresswoman Jackson Lee, Congresswoman Lee, and Congresswoman Blunt Rochester. I know Congressman Johnson had to step out, but as the primary sponsor of the Tulsa Claims Act, I also want to just acknowledge that also was the work of Congressman John Conyers, and again, to see you all carrying that on and making it stronger. That's what this is all about. So as you all begin to wrap up, because it's time, it's 3:58, and I would love for you all to come back from the red carpet and from your table conversations as you all are developing your calls to action. Let's give the Congresswoman another round of applause. quite at the benediction, but we're close. It's almost my benediction because I have to go try to catch a flight. And my brother left me up here. Demario, come back.
Well, can I just shout out to the people from Texas? I know you're in the room. Paul Davis, I know AME members. I know they're all around. Thank you so very much.
Thank you all so much. I'm so grateful. I love y'all.
And can we give a shout out to Angela Rye? It's Angela Rye who's keeping the light on.
Nothing like classmates. Nothing like classmates. How are you?
Great, yeah, we're gonna get our picture. Yeah, here. You can bring Chad up. She's right here. Great, we gotta get Chad. Chad! Come on. Chad! Chad! Okay, here you are.
All right, people. We're having a good time, and we're gonna try to get these moving around. If we can get everybody to your seat. We have 3 individuals. Yeah, okay. We have 3 individuals who are gonna talk for 1 minute about what they learned at their table. But one more time, let's give it up for Angela Rye. One more time. Okay, DJ. You got Raven, is Raven one of them? Yeah. We got, okay, let's get the first one. Okay. Oh, you can go right.
Hello? All right.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Deandra Ware. I am a graduate of Langston University and a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. At our table, we were filled with people that had backgrounds in education and other African American enthusiasts. We've chosen as our mission to educate ourselves to educate others.
All right.
Hello, my name is LaShondra Houghton, and at my table I had a whole group that was from California to North Virginia, Ohio, Florida, and right here in Oklahoma. I was so proud to be with these people because most of them I had never met, but they are my ancestors, they are my descendants, they are my relatives.
Yeah!
To meet my family that I have never met before. This has been a blessing here. We came here for justice for Greenwood, but I realized that we also came here to join our families back together.
Yes.
It is now, and it is time for us to take advantage of it. So now I ended up meeting a lot of our family that was from our Holloways that actually owned the Holloway ice cream parlor, as long as the dental, we had a dental shop. We also had the Ramsey drugstore with the boarding house. We had the Holloway, the siblings had their boarding home. We had the Ramsey drugstore that actually housed many things in there, including a jewelry store, a barber shops. There was many things, and then we had our great-grandmother, who was Jenny Holloway, who actually lost a lot of property at this event. So we're here to support the initiatives that are going on. We're here to make sure that we tell the truth.
All right, all right.
We're here to support our people. We're here to put the people that are living here, because I am from Florida, but there is education that needs to be done. There is mental health that it's time to start healing our hearts and our minds so we can start to build our Greenwood back. Thank you.
Right, right.
Hi, I'm Pam Butler. I'm from Tulsa, and I was a part of a group that represented people from Houston, from Indiana, from Oklahoma City, as well as from Tulsa. And to pick up on what she said, most of our focus was wanting to know the truth, what really did happen. And also to know the truth of what's happening now, because we've heard so many conflicting stories with what was canceled and whose fault this was and why that got built over there and how it's really for our community. So we really wanted to know the truth of it. And then many of us said, who were from Tulsa and Oklahoma City in particular, we want to get involved. We want to stop being on the sidelines. We want to get involved.
Yes, yes.
Talking it. We want to actually do the walking with it to make a difference.
All right, great. We got one more. Oh. When are you speaking? Okay, you want to really? Okay. Okay, real quickly, we have Raven Williams, who is the great-granddaughter of A.J. Smitherman. A.J. Smitherman, one of the leaders of Greenwood. He had the Tulsa Star, which is considered the first African-American newspaper to have a national publication.
Thank you. Demario also represents my father, who is a plaintiff in the motion, so I wanted to thank him. I asked him if I could just come up here and thank all of you who are working tirelessly to help our family get justice and all of the families and the descendants get justice. I have done 7 years of research about what our family lost and who A.J. Smitherman was and his contribution to this community. And I want to make sure that he's honored, he's respected, and that his story is not exploited, because most of what you will see and find out there with everybody telling this story, so much of it comes from his newspaper, so much of it comes from his poem, so much of it comes from his intellectual property. And the lawyers in the back who are helping with the intellectual property case, that was on my behalf too. Because I called Demario, I said, I need to know what our rights are as a family, because we are being exploited. People are making money on this story. I shopped this story to Hollywood, and every single production company that's putting this story out right now turned our family down and did it behind our back, and now is making money on it. And I'm not happy about it, and I'm really not having it because I'm A.J. Smitherman's great-granddaughter, and you wouldn't be having it. So here we go. I want to give shouts out to my sister who's here from Oakland. She's an activist in Oakland. My cousin Seth, who's an activist and a lawyer in New York, has a minority corporate law firm. So we have taken our roots when we lost everything and just used the blood and sweat and lots of tears. Because that congressional hearing, let me tell you, I haven't cried that hard since my sister was murdered years ago. I had so much pain in me. It was cellular, it's genetic, it's post-traumatic. And that's why you should be compelled to care. It's not just the money. We will never, ever have enough money to repair. Our family was torn apart. Our grandfather had to move from Oklahoma and the weather here to Buffalo to be close to the Canadian border because he died a fugitive. So as you can see, I'm very passionate about this. And I'm not happy about how it's going down. And no, we are not here to celebrate. We're here to demand. So I'm demanding, and I would like for all the help. If you want to stay in touch with the things we support, you can go to ajsmitherman.com. And if a project's not on that website, it hasn't gotten our endorsement, and there's not very many on there. The OWN project that's coming out tomorrow, June 1st, the first episode, that'll be on OWN and Discovery Plus. I'm in that, and they came and they showed enough due respect that I participated in that. But I'm just telling you, everybody's not doing that, and the commission certainly isn't doing that. Wow.
Lord. Thank you, Lord. Okay, if everybody could get to your seats. We are way over on time. Because of the Secret Service, we have to be out of here by 6. But I just wanted to let you know as we wrap up, did you feel the power in this room? Do you feel the spirit in this room? Do you feel the ancestors moving in this room? We want you to understand that this Greenwood diaspora is us. We are Greenwood. And before I get to my closing remarks, I want to make sure I do recognize our city councilor, our fighter, the first African American to be chair of the City of Tulsa City Council, District 1, Vanessa Hall Harper. Give us some love. She's fighting for us every single day down at that racist City Hall. And we appreciate you. We appreciate you, Vanessa. I also saw, he may be gone, but we had Hill Harper was here with us, but he may be gone, but we definitely appreciate him stopping by. He's gone? Okay, he's gone. Well, listen, as you prepare to leave here, I want you to understand that Greenwood was a love story. You have heard about Dick Rowland. We know the story of Dick Rowland, a shoeshine boy. Now, what was he? What was he, a lawyer? Was he a doctor? What was he? He was a shoeshine boy. He was a shoeshine boy that we've been told he got on an elevator with a young white woman named Sarah Page. And this young white woman, Dick Rowland, was falsely accused of sexually assaulting her. And we all know how many countless black people and black communities and black businesses and black everything have been destroyed because of these false accusations. But that's not the love story I'm talking about. The love story is that Dick Rowland was a shoeshine boy. He was not a lawyer. He was not a doctor. He was not an important, high-ranking official in Greenwood. But the community loved Dick Rowland as much as they loved A.J. Smith. The community loved Dick Rowland as much as they loved J.B. Stratford. The community loved Dick Rowland, a shoeshine boy, as much as they loved the great Dr. A.C. Jackson. Because that's what it was about in Greenwood. It was about the community loving each other. And as you leave here, we are Greenwood. We are Greenwood. We are Greenwood. We have to have the love that Greenwood had for a shoeshine boy. If you're from Detroit, if you're from New York, if you're from Cleveland, Oklahoma City, Kansas City, Denver, it does not matter. We must have the love that they had for Dick Rowland for all of us. We must work together. Join Justice for Greenwood. Sign up for Justice for Greenwood. Call our descendant hotline. Donate your resources. Stand with us as a block as we fight for our rights and our dignity. As we fight for reparations. As we fight for policy change. As we fight for resources. As the Biden administration pumps resources into Tulsa, we want to have a seat at the table to make sure for the first time those resources come to North Tulsa and our people. We are what? We are. We are. We are. We are. Thank you. Have a great evening.
Hey guys, thank you for joining us today. So we just took part in a town hall that covered a lot of the history of Greenwood. We had a lot of really important politicians speak today. This town hall covered a lot of things that the black community has been demanding since the Tulsa Massacre, you know, asking for reparations, pointing out racial injustice as a continual problem in the country, calling for better policy, calling for action from the community here and in the nation, all around the world even. There are definitely a lot of calls to have a better understanding, a better record, and more education of the racial injustices that the black community has sustained since 1921, since before that, since the foundation of this country. They continue to look for ways to involve politicians so that our country sees a better system guided with policies and with a bigger voice for the black community. So we had a lot of really great discussions. It was a really great event, went on for almost 2 hours now, but if you watched through it, thank you. If you watched part of it, thank you too. Thank you so much for being with us. Just trying to bring you as much coverage of, you know, Tulsa, the massacre, the anniversary, the centennial, just so that you understand the conversations, the history that has shaped this world, and ultimately that has shaped who we are as people. As we are directly affected by these social movements, there hasn't been a city, country, there hasn't been a place on earth where this movement, where, you know, tension in America has not already reached its hands and fingers. So thank you so much for being here with me today, and I wish you the best. I am a little bit distracted, excuse me, just trying to figure out what's going to happen here, but I think the event is over for today, so we will see you later. I will go and check out what other events are planned for today here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. But again, thank you so much for joining us, and I wish you the best. Have a wonderful, beautiful day today.